Welcome to the TWMP Daily. I'm Scott Faughn. We are joined by kind of a cool show today. You know, a lot of times we talk about stuff that's already in the news a bunch of times. We're talking about something that's maybe not in the news yet. We are joined by Dena. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for having us.
Everybody that watches this show will know you and know the things you work on. But we're joined by TWMP, former F-18 pilot, doctorate, teacher, Top Gun graduate. I would keep on with your resume. We run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate it.
So you're here with the Modern Health Coalition. Tell folks what that is.
So the Modern Health Coalition, it's an organization that we started up a few months ago, and we're basically trying to educate Missourians in the legislature on alternative medicines that are out there for people that are suffering with mental health, substance use, that kind of stuff, something other than prescriptions.
Something, Dena, that I'm familiar with some of these things. Mm-hmm. And really, I became familiar with them because they affect a lot of first responders, a lot of veterans, folks that have been through trauma. And we've all, people go through trauma in life. These are folks that signed up to endure trauma, so I don't have to. It does feel on some level like I know you have to control some of this stuff, right? I get it.
Right.
But some of these treatments, if they can help someone, man, it just seems like the government should get out of the way and let them try it.
So I founded the Modern Health Coalition about 6 months ago, but I've been working in this space for 2 years out in DC with a colleague. He pulled me in, he's a lobbyist, and he said, hey, come on here and help me get appropriations for psilocybin clinical trials. And who was leading that effort is Congressman Morgan Luttrell and Congressman Dan Crenshaw, both out of Texas. So we worked with their offices. And I was really kind of new to everything. I've always been a big supporter of plant-based medicine.
Indeed.
Yes. And so as I learned more about this and met with the congressman, and we were on Capitol Hill, I'm like, this is what veterans need and first responders, because antidepressants aren't working, opioids aren't working. Just alcohol's not working. They need a different type of treatment, or have the chance to have a different type of treatment other than just the standard same old.
Well, it's something to try, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's something you can give a try to. So tell me, what is the argument other people come up with for why a veteran shouldn't be able to try this? To me, telling a veteran what to do, they've done things that I didn't sign up to do. So if they want to try some things to deal with some of the trauma they experienced while they were doing things on my behalf, what's the argument why they shouldn't let folks at least try this, right?
So from my experience, the only argument that I've heard voiced significantly is the leftover argument from Nixon and Reagan's war on drugs. There's still that social stigma that's against plant medicine that still pervades society. But I think what I'm starting to see is that as you see more veterans and first responders coming forward, leading the charge on this, you're starting to see society starting to warm up a little bit to these alternative treatments. But yeah, I think it's still that stigma that's still left over from 50 years ago.
What are some of the plant-based medicines that you think would be good for these experimental treatments?
So the two bills that we're working on right now are psilocybin and ibogaine. And those are very different ends of the spectrum when it comes to
Tell
plant
folks
medicine.
what psilocybin is. I've heard that term. I think some folks have probably heard the term. Give me just in simple West Butler County hillbilly speak, what is psilocybin?
Magic mushrooms is what everybody knows it as. And then ibogaine, a lot of people have not heard of ibogaine.
Okay, I have heard of ibogaine, which is what Hunter S. Thompson made up in his book to say that this presidential candidate he was covering was on. He totally made it up. It doesn't even exist. But it sounds like ibogaine, right?
Yeah, very similar. So ibogaine comes from a second layer of root bark from a tree that's indigenous to Western Africa.
Wow.
And tribes in Africa have been using it for millennia. And there are people that have known about it for years, but it's just now in the last probably 5 years really starting to get out into the plant medicine world. And they're two very different kinds of medicines, but those are the two prominent ones that you're really hearing about right now.
So I've heard treatments like this. You may have 10 people with similar symptoms that they're similar things they're dealing with. 9 of them may not make a difference, but 1 of them it totally changes everything.
That's right.
When you lay out, why don't you let folks try this? Is it just the pushback of drugs are bad?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do, like Richard West, Representative West, has House Bill 1717. So that's to get money from the opioid settlement that Missouri received to give to clinical trials that would take place here in Missouri with the psilocybin. And so those trials, they are doing trials right now. University of Missouri is ready to do the trials. We just need the funding. So these will be very controlled trials, safe, with guardrails to see how people will react to those trials. More with the ibogaine, there is a bill with the ibogaine, but there's only a few places in the United States, my understanding is, that are doing those clinical trials. So the psilocybin's a little bit more further out there, and then in the Senate, Senator Tracy McCreary is filing the bill today, the Senate bill. So we're very excited about that. So it's a whole procedure. These veterans, these first responders, will be working with trained medical professionals, therapists, and I should let Trey describe that more because he has gone through the treatments. So
Yeah, what is it like?
So as far as the preparation, the treatment, and the integration afterwards, they're very similar between psilocybin and ibogaine, but there are a few differences. And so with psilocybin, it's a lot easier and it's cheaper, honestly, for those treatments because psilocybin is much easier for people to take. There are some things you have to be careful about. So there are some things you have to screen for to see if people are taking that could, counteract with the psilocybin. But generally, that medicine is a lot easier to prepare for, to prescribe, to undergo the treatment, and then to integrate on the backside. Ibogaine is much more powerful than psilocybin, but ibogaine has has a kind of bigger window of things you have to be concerned about, that it may counteract with. So the screening process for ibogaine tends to be more in depth. When you do ibogaine, you tend to have medical professionals there as well, as you do with psilocybin. But with ibogaine, because of some of the reactions that you can get, and so you tend to have a little more focus on the medicine safety side than you do with psilocybin. And so from a cost standpoint, ibogaine's a little more expensive to do, but on the backside, in my experience, I've gone through both of them, and I've incorporated them with therapy. The example I like to use, or the metaphor I like to use, I compare it to somebody with a headache. You may take aspirin, Dena may take acetaminophen, and I may take ibuprofen. Because it all works differently. Psychedelics are the same way. So when I do ibogaine, I've got a lot of brain injuries from my combat deployments. I had a TBI in 2002. I had a lot of carrier takeoffs and landings, pulling Gs. And so I do ibogaine specifically trying to heal my brain. I've done psilocybin trying to help with my depression and anxiety with the help of a therapist, meditation, and some other alternative therapies as well.
So in Missouri, these are illegal now?
they are illegal. There are some states that psilocybin is legal, such as Oregon, Colorado, New Jersey just passed their legislative bill. Texas in 2021 passed the psilocybin clinical trial bill. And last year they passed their ibogaine clinical trial bill for $50 million. And I have worked really closely with a group called Texans for Greater Mental Health. That's what I've modeled the coalition after. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how'd y'all get $50 million down there?
Yeah.
And they're like, we got gas and oil, Dena.
Yeah, that's right.
But my point is, we have looked to Texas to model our legislation after, because they're a red conservative state just like us. Mm-hmm. And I will say Governor Rick Perry, former Governor Rick Perry, I had the pleasure of being with him at a summit in October, and he is really leading the charge for psychedelics, and he is the reason that this is happening in Texas. So it's quite amazing. And if you listen to a podcast he did, Joe Rogan, mm-hmm. It was Governor Perry and Brian Hubbard. Just to hear how he got involved is just really fascinating. So he has dedicated his life to making sure that ibogaine clinical trials can happen in the United States. But right now, for the treatment, you have to go out of the country to get the ibogaine treatments. You have to go to Mexico. There's 4 clinics down in Mexico that veterans go to. And there's a group called VETS, which Trey is an ambassador, and they help assist veterans getting treatments in Mexico.
So you have to literally fly out of the country to do this.
Yes, sir. So I'm actually in a couple of weeks. The process is, for vets, fly to San Diego, and then a Suburban comes, drives across the border, picks you up, takes you back down to Tijuana. And Vets has a partnership with a clinic down there named Ambio. They've got, I think, 4 or 5 different sites around Tijuana. And so I'm actually going there in a couple of weeks. I'm a peer support coach for vets. And so I'm taking a group of 5 veterans down to Mexico for their first ibogaine journey. And I'm going to be there as their peer support, helping them before, during, and after their journey.
Oh, that's going to be pretty rewarding when you see somebody who's, struggling because they're a hero, really, and then be able to help them kind of make a difference in their life and their mental health. Got to be a very rewarding thing to do.
It is, and I think the reason why this model works so well is because all of us peer support coaches were also in those shoes. I was there exactly a year ago. And so I think that's why it helps, because they see us as a better image of themselves, and hey, hopefully I can get there to that point. Mm-hmm. And then we see them in ourselves as well, because we were just there a year ago, a year and a half. And so I love doing this kind of work. It's very rewarding, and I can't see anything else I'd rather be doing right now.
I could see how that could be very rewarding. So right now there's legislation just for clinical trials, right?
Just for clinical trials.
What do you hope to pull out of the clinical trials?
We hope that it provides the results that show that this is going to be a safe treatment for people with unmet mental health medical needs, such as veterans and first responders, and then others who are dealing with depression and anxiety. But first, we want the trials to go forward to make sure that it's safe and regulated. So that's why, like I said, they're doing the treatments in Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, various places around the country. But we want those treatments to be available here in Missouri, because it's not fair. I mean, these, veterans have served their country, and things aren't working, whether it's antidepressants, drinking, and so they need other treatments. And so far, the studies have shown that this is a very good source for unmet mental health needs and so forth. So, but we also are looking at the first responders.
Sure.
So on the coalition board, Joe Patterson, he's amazing, that runs St. Louis County Police. He's on our board, the coalition board. And so he's really the voice to make sure that first responders will also be a part of this. So
that's great. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors up in the great Northwest, United Fiber, the best rural broadband in all rural Missouri, the Courtyard by Marriott, and I'll tell you, there ain't nothing more Missouri than the products of the Mocan Trade Association. Planted, fertilized, seeded, harvested, packaged, tested, sold. Everything about the products of the Mocan Trade Association is Missouri. Ain't nothing more Missouri than the Mocan Trade Association and their products. So what do you hope to see as the end of this? These trials go well. You develop some sort of official treatments that you can start to have. I mean, I've heard many folks say they want Missouri to be the veteran state. They want to make the most veteran-friendly place it can be. It sounds like this might be one way they can go about that.
Yes, sir. So what we're hoping Missouri's going to be one of those vanguard states that's starting to do the research. And eventually down the line, we would like for the FDA to reschedule a lot of these medicines, and so that they can be considered along with all the other controlled substances that get prescribed for mental health. But when it comes to veterans, we've had conversations about how do we make Missouri more veteran. Better job training, better jobs, more opportunities for veterans. But we've also talked about mental health as well. We've got 2 bases here in Missouri and 1 right next door in Illinois. And so, I think mental health is a key piece of, how do we make Missouri more appealing to active duty personnel who are separating. And so I think in the short term, that's where we'd like to present this message that, Missouri is a great place for you guys to stay when you separate. Because we've got the mental health, we've got great job opportunities and job training for you and that kind of stuff.
To me, it's kind of a signal, too, that the states, everybody says they love a veteran, right? It's popular to say. To me, it's a nice thing when you can say, no, we care about veterans. Here's why, and here's things we're doing directly to show that. It seems like it's a nice thing to say we want Missouri to be friendly to veterans, but when you do things like this that are not easy, I mean, it's a new thing. You have to kind of get read up on it, but to me, it's a very strong signal that people actually care and actually mean they want to be the most veteran-friendly state they can be.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think too, so a couple of other veterans on the coalition board presented to the Veterans Committee in the House, and they were just so responsive. Like they understood what we're trying to do. They had great questions. They were concerned about the oversight, of course, and having good guardrails on the trials and so forth, but there was no negative responses, just very positive to help veterans.
So how can folks, if they want to get involved, or if they're a veteran or first responder and they want to learn more about this, how do they reach out to you?
Go to modernhealthcoalition.org. That is our website. It's got great information. Trey's on there on the homepage telling a story. It's great. And they can reach out. There's a way to reach out to me. And we'd love to get people involved. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. It's an amazing thing. And it does seem like a lot of people say they're pro-veterans, but that's when it's easy, right? This is the thing that you're actually experimenting, trying things that takes a minute to explain. This is kind of how you prove it, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having
Dena,
us.
thank you
Scott.
very much. We will be back tomorrow from Westminster University in Fulton, Missouri, kicking off the festivities for the anniversary of the Iron Curtain speech. We'll see you then.